Who knew Twitter being used for something positive in the year 2025? Bizarre. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. So, I have done this kind of video in the past. I started this kind of video format last year, doing a bit of a deep dive into various authors' works. It's kind of been authors that I am pretty new to, haven't read anything by them before, but I've heard good things about their books. So last year I started off um, doing Sally Rooney's books and short stories um, because she had a new book coming out last year, which I still haven't read actually. Um, I need to get onto that, and I had a good time. And then later on last year, I repeated the process with Eliza Clark, read her 3 books, had a great time. She's definitely an author that I am going to keep an eye on in future. And then earlier this year, I did a similar video for Emily Henry, reading all of her romance books in the lead up to the release of Great Big Beautiful Life, which was slightly different because I had read most of her books before, so it was a bit more of a kind of a reread, a refresh of her books. But yeah, I still had a lot of fun with that one. So yeah, I kind of see this video format of like author deep dives, reading various books by one author in one video, is something that I would like to do more of in future. So yeah, this is what we're going to do now here, I guess. And it being August, August is Women in Translation Month, I thought it would be fun to look at a female author whose books have been translated into English, which, is something I've never done in a video like this before. I have been trying to read more translated works recently. I haven't read a massive amount of translated books in the past, and yeah, I've been trying to kind of broaden my range of books I read, diversify my bookshelf a bit more. So yeah, I see this as like a good opportunity to do that, I guess. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to read the entire bodywork of this particular author because not all of it has been translated into English, but I will be able to read everything that has been translated into English, if you know what I mean. So, if you haven't already guessed from the title of this video, the author I've chosen for this video, do a little deep dive into, is Mieko Kawakami, who has 4 books translated into English, and all 4 I have heard very good things about. I kind of first heard of Mieko Kawakami through Jack Edwards, who absolutely raves about her books. So yeah, that's definitely a good sign. Other than that, though, I don't actually know much more. I haven't had a massive look into any of the books, at least not recently. I have kind of steadily acquired all of them over the last couple of years, either as physical books or as ebooks, that have just kind of randomly been on offer. And yeah, I now possess in some format all 4 of her books that have been translated into English, which means it's a good time. Now is the perfect time for me to read all of them. So what we're going to do in this video, if you haven't seen any other videos like this I've done in the past, is read all of her books in chronological order by publication in English. Just because I think that is probably the simplest way to do it. And then I am probably also going to try and find some of the shorter form works that have also been translated into English that will probably be online. I don't know. I need to do more research into that area of it, but just to start us off, I'm gonna start reading the books and starting off with the book that has been published first in English. We are going to start with a nice short one, actually. This is Miss Ice Sandwich. This is tiny weeny. It's literally, I think it's less than 100 pages long. Yeah, 92 pages long, which is tiny. So I would not be surprised if I finished this book today and could give you a review pretty soon. Um, so yeah, that is what we're going to start off with. I am also going to see if I can find some more short form fiction online. Yeah, lots to do. I will see you, I'm sure, very soon for a little review of this one. Hello, there is a big old garden party happening right outside my window at the moment. So, yeah, I don't know if the sound quality is going to be usable. If you hear any screaming children during this section, then that is what is happening. Don't worry. Don't be alarmed. Um yeah, I'm assuming you'll be fine because of the microphone, but yeah, we'll just have to see. Anyway, yesterday I did end up reading and finishing Miss Ice Sandwich by Mieko Kawakami. This is a novella that follows a young boy. He's probably like 9 or 10, maybe, who has this obsession with a woman who works at his local supermarket selling sandwiches, who has a pretty kind of unconventional style. She's got kind of plastic surgery. She has like this bright blue makeup that looks like kind of one of these ice pops, um, which is why he calls her Ms. Ice Sandwich. And every day he goes to this supermarket and he buys a sandwich from her, just to, kind of interact with her for a few seconds. And yeah, that's basically it. There isn't much in the way of plot. It is mostly kind of a character driven story. It is very kind of a stream of consciousness style narration following this young boy, which I really liked. I think the author really captured kind of this very kind of distinctive narrative voice, um, that just like brings to mind a young boy who is growing up. He doesn't really fully understand the world yet. There are concepts that he doesn't quite grasp, like grief, for example, and the concept of death and loss and people kind of moving away, stuff like that. And yeah, I found that very endearing. It was sweet. It's a sweet book. But other than that, it didn't really do much for me. Um yeah, I feel like this is kind of a book that I will forget about fairly soon. I don't know. It's not as if the book is bad anyway. It's a good book, definitely worth reading. Doesn't take very long. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's like great. It's not one I'm going to be thinking about for days and days afterwards. It's cute and it's pretty well written, but it's not particularly profound in any way. I guess it's ordinary and it's kind of quiet and intimate. But yeah, it was all right. So that was that one. First book of this challenge done. Yay. I'm going to move straight on to the next one, which is Breasts and Eggs. This is significantly longer than Miss Ice Sandwich, so it'll probably take me a few days to read. So, yeah, I'm going to get on with it, and I will see you at some point for an update on this one. Hello, I'm back. I have now finished Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami. This is a book that's like, it's kind of two books in one. It's kind of a novella followed by a novel, and yeah, it's they both have their own plots, I guess. So in the first section, we um, our main character Natsuko is visited by her sister and her niece. Um, Natsuko lives in Tokyo, and her sister and niece are visiting from Osaka, and her sister is visiting in order to go and get a consultation on breast enhancement surgery. And she is taking her daughter along. Her daughter's like 12, and she has recently stopped speaking. Um, and we get to see kind of her journal entries as well. Like that is how she kind of conveys her thoughts in this part of the book, is through her journal entries. So yeah, it follows kind of 2 days where they're visiting and the stuff that happens. And then yeah, that's kind of the novella portion of it. It's like 150 pages long, and then the rest of the book takes place about 8 years later, and it's focused on Natsuko, who is now a successful author, and she is considering like sperm donation in order to have a baby by herself. And it kind of discusses the ethics of that, like whether people are entitled to children. You know, like if they cannot have children but through kind of natural, usual means, is there kind of another ethical way for them to have children? Or, like, you know, are they entitled to having children at all? It kind of looks at that kind of ethical debate, which was really interesting to read. The book also goes into discussing growing up in poverty, growing up poor in Japan, um, and also the experience of being a woman and all of the expectations that are kind of pushed on you um, because of that. Um, you know, what is there like a set role for women? Is there something that defines you as a woman, i.e., having children, or like, you know, getting your period for the first time? Everyone's being like, "Oh, you're a woman now, you can have children," and just kind of like, ew, because you know you're 12 and you are a child yourself. Why would you even think about having children? Um, that kind of thing. I thought this was a pretty interesting read. There were some fairly entertaining scenes. I think my favorite scene was when Natsuko goes to meet a potential sperm donor, um, because as a single woman, like she kind of isn't eligible for like fertility treatments the usual way. So she kind of goes and meets this kind of off the record sperm donor, but he actually turns out to be an absolute creep. Um, and it's quite a funny scene. Like you immediately you kind of he starts speaking, you're like, oh, red flag, no, thank you. That was quite funny. I also like this is one of the only books I've read where a character is like heavily implied to be asexual and sex repulsed. Natsuko in this book, like she doesn't have a sex drive, she doesn't have a libido or anything. Um, she is like really disgusted by the idea of sex. Like she has tried it and she was like, no, no, thank you. Um, and she, you know, she expresses a big desire to just like be normal, and you know, because we live in a society that, you know, sex is like a thing that is done. It's a thing that like everyone likes and enjoys, but you know, being someone who doesn't have a desire to do it like is seen as completely abnormal. And yeah, Natsuko does struggle with that. She does wish to like be normal. And it does make life kind of difficult for her because, she does want to be a mother, but she can't conceive a child in the normal way. So, where does that leave her? That was really interesting to read, especially like in kind of the context of Japanese culture, like the kind of societal norms of Japan are quite different to Western society. And yeah, it was interesting to see how that experience kind of was different but also quite similar to the experiences of asexual people in the West. Yeah, it was really interesting. So yeah, some entertaining bits, some interesting discussions, definitely. Um, there were some nice lines as well, just some nice little similes and metaphors and things. I thought the translator did a really good job. Who translated this? Hang on. Sam Bett and David Boyd were the translators of this one. Um, and yeah, they did, I think, a really good job. Um, I think, yeah, although there are some kind of good and interesting and entertaining bits in this book, most of it was pretty slow. Um, and yeah, it was very kind of slice of life and a bit kind of no plot, just vibes. Um, sometimes it was a little bit too slow for my liking. I was just kind of waiting for the next thing to happen. There's a lot of like Natsuko going to a place and talking to an acquaintance, and then going to another place and talking to another acquaintance, and just kind of being told information a lot of the time. Um, there's a lot of that. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I got a little bit bored at points. Because it was just a bit slow. But if you are a fan of No Plot Just Vibes books and you enjoy kind of philosophical, ethical discussions about society, um, yeah, would probably recommend. So that is Breasts and Eggs, and we are halfway through the reading challenge. It's going to be quite a short one. Well, short in comparison to my other reading vlogs, which are long ones. Um, but yeah, we're two books down, two to go. I have already started reading Heaven, which is the next book on the list. I'm like maybe 10 pages in. I'm reading it as an ebook, and yeah, no really concrete thoughts yet, but I'm getting similar vibes to Ms. Ice Sandwich, um, in terms of like the narrative voice. The main character is also a child, like in Ms. Ice Sandwich. So yeah, similar vibes. But yeah, I guess we will see when I'm finished what I think. Hello, how are we doing? Today I finished Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. This is a fairly short book. It's under 200 pages. Bit of a novella vibe. It follows a 14-year-old boy who is the target of bullies at his school because he has a lazy eye. Um, and yeah, they bully him quite violently. He ends up befriending a classmate of his, a girl who is equally the target of bullies. Um, and they kind of bond over their experiences, being kind of different at school, being social outcasts, um, not really having any other friends. And yeah, that's basically it, pretty much. I have quite mixed feelings about this one. Um, on the one hand, I wasn't bored reading it. I thought it was the perfect length and the pacing was really good. Thought the translation was pretty good as well. Yeah, the prose kind of flowed. There were some decent lines in there. I liked the exploration of like the violence of young people, um, how and why they tend to exert power over others, this kind of social hierarchy and how it's maintained, and how it can potentially be a metaphor for how adults, especially adults with power in society, often choose an already marginalized group of people to scapegoat and be the target of their policies and things, um, for pretty much no good reason other than, to cement their political power, to kind of give the people a particular target, um, to kind of carry favor in politics. We are seeing this happen a lot nowadays in general society. You see this in the States with um, immigrants. You see this in the UK with trans people. It's a thing that happens, and you know, it's when you kind of think about it, it's pretty childish choosing this group of people who, population wise, they make up a very, very small proportion of the population, and blaming them for, every single problem in society. It is childish. We can call it what it is. It's bullying. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, your politicians are bullies. So yeah, I thought that was it. It was interesting. And I do like how Mieko Kawakami does discuss these issues. Um, these kind of general societal issues. These are issues and dilemmas that affect quite a large amount of society, but she uses examples of like individual people and explores the life and the experiences of this individual person. Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, there were aspects of the book that I liked. I think in theory, like the concept of the book is pretty good. Um, in terms of actual reading experience, um, I didn't really enjoy it. I think pretty much just based on like the actual content of the book, and maybe that's on me for not looking at the content warnings, not paying attention to them. Maybe that's my fault. Um, but this book does go into a lot of detail about the bullying that these two school kids experience. And it gets pretty violent and pretty uncomfortable to read. Um, yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy that. And like even outside of the violence that these two characters experience, there were other aspects of the book that I didn't really enjoy reading about. To be honest, like the last thing that I want to read about is the sexual awakening of a 14-year-old boy. Yeah, there were just kind of several scenes where I had to like look up from the book and be like, what the fuck am I reading? And not in a good way. Occasionally, you can read books and you can get that kind of what the fuck did I just read feeling, and that is a good thing. It can be a weird book in a good way. This was, yeah, just kind of uncomfortable. And I guess you can like make the argument that like you can't say that a book is bad based on its content alone, like the whole kind of don't like, don't read kind of thing. And I'm not saying that the book is bad. I actually think it was pretty well written. It did kind of have some interesting discussion points. Um, but rating wise, like the way I rate books is kind of a combination of like how well it was written and my general kind of reading experience, whether I actually enjoyed it. And I didn't really enjoy this book. So Yeah, sue me. It's gonna affect my rating. I don't know. I do feel pretty conflicted about this one because on the one hand, I wasn't bored. Um, like I was a little bit with breasts and eggs, and the book did elicit a pretty strong reaction from me, which some would say is a marker of a good book. Um, but yeah, in terms of like reading experience, I didn't have the best time. So yeah, it's fine. We're having fun. We're learning new things. This is all for the experience. So yeah, we only have one book left in this challenge. It is All the Lovers in the Night. Um, yeah, I'm really hoping that this one is a hit with me. We haven't had the most successful time with the other three books. So yeah, here's hoping that this one is an improvement. Hello, welcome to the final part of this video. This I think it's going to be a fairly long clip because we have lots to talk about. Um, yeah, this morning I did finish All the Lovers in the Night. But before I talk to you about that, I wanted to kind of briefly talk about some of the um, short fiction that I have read um, recently by mieko Kawakami. I kind of went on a little bit of a quest to find as much um, as I possibly could in terms of short fiction, essays, stuff like that, um, that was kind of published online, um, online and in English, obviously, um, and I read quite a lot, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to maybe give a kind of quick fire rundown of maybe like a top five short stories that I think are definitely worth reading and are also available online for free. Um, yes. Starting off with an honourable mention because this isn't a short story, it's an essay. It's called For That One Moment, published in 2022, translated by David Boyd. This is a pretty short essay. It's very short, actually. It took me maybe 5 minutes to read. It's not long at all. It's basically the author reflecting on loss, specifically the loss of her grandmother who raised her for pretty much most of her life, and actually provided some of the inspiration for parts of Breasts and Eggs, her first novel translated into English. Um, yeah, it's a very short essay, but it's still incredibly touching, very powerful about memory and specifically the idea of like touch memory and kind of memories of senses and what it's like to no longer be able to touch the people that you love and the idea of forgetting what it feels like to touch them, to like hold their hands and exist in their space with them. It is just very, very powerful. Then, in terms of short stories, I would recommend Where Have All the Sundays Gone, which was translated by Hitomi Yoshio, published in 2015. This is a short story about a woman who tries to reconnect with a childhood sweetheart over the death of their favourite author, whose work they bonded over when they were kids. And they have grown apart over the past decades, and the the news of this author's death kind of brings back all those memories um, about her friend and their friendship. This short story explores a very particular kind of grief that comes with the death of a famous person, a famous artist, because like they might not know that you exist. They probably didn't know who you are, but they still had a very profound impact on your life through their art. Like the things that they created in their life had this massive impact on you growing up. I personally felt this feeling quite recently when I learned of the death of the composer William Finn, who wrote one of my favorite musicals of all time, Falsettos. And yeah, it's a weird feeling because like you obviously don't know the person personally, um, but you feel like you do because you know their art, you know them through what they have created. The short story itself is, I would describe it as quietly tragic. Um, it's quite calm, but at the same time, it's sad. Then we have 13th Month, also published in 2015 and translated by Hitomi Yoshio. This was originally published in a magazine that is normally hidden behind a paywall, but I was actually able to get a free download of it via Kawakami's Twitter account. Who knew Twitter being used for something positive in the year 2025? Bizarre. This story follows a couple through the wife's terminal diagnosis and subsequent death. She is diagnosed with a very severe kidney disorder, an illness affecting her kidneys, and it's, yeah, pretty much terminal. We follow her decline and her death. There's even a section that is about her kind of as a ghost after her death, kind of looking on, and she's kind of forced to watch her husband, who's still alive, kind of move on without her. The story is split into 4 chapters. I particularly like the first one, where the couple is still kind of together in life, and there's discussion of the wife's health anxiety and stuff. It feels kind of liminal spacey, I guess, especially the chapter from the perspective of the wife as a ghost. It feels kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit eerie. I really like the musings on grief and grieving not just a a lost loved one, but also a lost life, a life cut short, um, a life that should have been longer and more prosperous. Then we have possibly my favorite short story out of the 5, about her and the memories that belong to her. Again, published in 2015, translated by Hitomi Yoshio. This is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a funny story, but it's very kind of characterful. It's about a famous actress who attends a school reunion at her rural hometown and kind of comes face to face with people from her past and her past actions. And yeah, it is very much a character piece. I really, really enjoyed the character work. You could so clearly see the way that the actress, who, she grew up in a rural hometown, she always thought of herself as kind of destined for better things. And, she's moved to the big city and she's returned. She still considers herself better and above her former classmates. And she has this kind of proud disdain for them. She's just generally an unlikable character, although as we kind of read more of the story and get to know more of her past, that unlikableness of her kind of becomes something much more hateful, um, as she kind of starts to remember and reveal memories of her cruelty towards a particular classmate of hers. Um, like she did some truly terrible things, and you start to realize, oh, hang on, this character isn't just a bit annoying, a bit too proud, a bit too big for her boots. She is genuinely a terrible person. It also explores the experience of not recognizing the person you once were, of kind of looking back at your younger self and seeing a complete and utter stranger. It's a really interesting story. Then we have How Much Heart, published in 2018, translated by David Boyd, which is described as a triptych of flash fiction, essentially 3 very short vignettes focusing on three different women who are each suffering in some way. Um, they there's one of them that kind of feels trapped um, in a particular kind of self-destructive cycle. There's one who's in an unhappy marriage. Um, yeah, I feel like I need a slightly higher IQ to be able to understand these stories fully. They feel pretty poetic, which happens quite often with flash fiction. Because the word count is so short, so succinct, you really do have to cram as much kind of hidden meanings in there as possible. It's something that I feel like you need to kind of take a highlighter to fully analyze. But I don't know, they're very evocative. I enjoyed the vibes, at least, even if I didn't fully understand them. And then finally we have Shame, published in 2020, translated by Louise Hill Kawai and Hitomi Yoshio, which is about a woman who gains weight in order to protect herself from predatory men. As a teen, she was kind of a victim of several violent acts against her, and she's ended up taking measures to protect herself from that, from the male gaze. It's a story that explores the female experience in a misogynistic society, a society where victim blaming is pretty much the norm. And yeah, the whole kind of idea that like boys will be boys and there's no kind of stopping this this male violence towards women. It's also a story that asks who has ownership of our bodies, who has the right to comment on them, to think about them, to have an opinion on them in a society that is so focused on the way people look, specifically the way women look. Can our bodies ever truly be our own? For example, Narumi, our main character, feels completely disconnected from her physical body because of the assault that she faced decades ago. She feels like she lost ownership of it way back then, and since then it's never actually been hers. It's an insightful story. It's very sad. I would definitely recommend checking content warnings. Um, yeah, it's definitely an interesting discussion of that. Very evocative, potentially a little heavy-handed with the messaging, possibly. But yeah, they're all pretty good short stories. There are others out there on the internet. These are just the five ones that I liked most, and I think are definitely worth reading. Um, they're none of them are particularly long. Some of them are longer than others. Some of them will literally take you like 5 minutes to read. Some of them may be longer, like half an hour. But yeah, you can definitely read them in one sitting. Yeah, pretty good. And then finally, in other news, I read All the Lovers in the Night. As I said, this is a book that follows our main girl, Fuyuko, who works as a freelance proofreader for a publisher. Um, and it's just generally kind of a slice of life type thing, um, following her day to day life, focusing kind of on her isolation. She doesn't have a lot of friends, really. She gets into a little bit of a situationship with an older guy. It looks at the experiences of being a woman in the workplace. There are a couple of other female characters who kind of interact with Ryuko and um, kind of explores what it's like to be a woman in business, in kind of the corporate space, and potentially feel threatened by other women, um, and yeah, how they interact with each other, especially in like a patriarchal society where women are kind of pushed more to compete against each other and drag each other down rather than like actually support and uplift each other. All of that was really interesting. Fuyuko as a character was very, very interesting. She is messy. She's very human. She's very real. I feel like she's potentially the most real out of all of the characters, all of the main characters, at least in all of the books I've read so far. in this vlog. I liked the exploration into her isolation and loneliness, and the ideas of like the differences between being lonely and being alone. Um, I do kind of wish that we'd had a little bit more detail towards the end. There's kind of the last chapter is a bit of a epilogue that there's a time skip and it's a whole thing. But I wish we kind of looked a little bit in more detail about her recovery from alcoholism and depression. Um, yeah, like she's a flawed character, and her kind of her addiction and her mental health are quite big players for the rest of the story. And then in the epilogue, she seems absolutely fine. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I kind of wanted to see a bit more of a kind of a journey, potentially. But overall, I mean, I actually really enjoyed this. Um, it was introspective and tender, and there's so much yearning. Love a bit of yearning. The translation was done really, really well as well. Again, it's translated by Sam Bett and David Boyd. Same with the other novels. Um, yeah, it's really lovely, really well written, and it is definitely my favorite um, book out of all the ones I've read in this vlog. It's good. We're ending on a high. That quite rarely happens. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think out of all the books I've read in this vlog, this is the one that I would recommend for sure. Especially if you like no plot, just vibes kind of books. Because there isn't a massive amount of plot, really. Actually, no, there isn't really a plot at all. It's very slice of life, but the vibes are actually interesting this time. Um, so yeah, I had a good time. But with that, we have unfortunately come to the end of this this journey, this vlog, this video. Overall, I don't know, not quite as successful as other kind of author deep dives that I've done on this channel. Um, yeah, there were a couple of flops in this one, unfortunately. Um, Nothing massively offensive. I think mostly just like I was a little bit bored. Um, but you know what? You win some, you lose some. And, if I had to read all that kind of 3 star, 3.5 star, kind of not so great books in order to get to All the Lovers in the Night and enjoy that one, then, I mean, I feel like it was kind of worth it. So, yeah, no regrets. Um, had a good time. And I'm pretty sure that Mieko Kawakami has another book coming out next year, and potentially also a short story collection. Which is pretty exciting. I'm fairly sure that the short stories will probably be ones that I have read before, at least some of them. Um, some of them might even be the ones that I included in this video. Who knows? Um, but yeah, I will definitely be reading her next book. Quite excited for that. And yeah, cool. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. You can find a couple of other author deep dives on my channel already, so go watch those if you have not. And let me know what other authors I should try, I should read more of. I'm always down to try new authors, new genres, stuff like that. Um, yeah, this was a fun experience. You can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, Storygraph, Blue Sky. I think that's it. My username on all those platforms is @WithLivJones if you would like to see even more content like this. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.